Ladies and gentlemen, our presenter tonight is giving us a 50 to 60-minute workshop. He enriched and expanded on a module from the Toastmasters Better Speaking series found on the TI website. When does your speech begin? If I said that my speech begins with my opening line, I'd be wrong. Our speeches begin before we utter our first words, before we even get up out of our chair. Our introduction is the first make or break moment of our speech. Few of us know how to write or deliver an exciting introduction. Many of our introductions bore our audiences or prepare them for a nap. Joining us tonight to solve this dilemma is Kyle Hall. Mr. Hall is a 30-year Toastmaster, a two-time DTM, an experienced MC, and an expert on introductions. Today, Kyle will tell us about what should and shouldn't go into our intro, how to craft an exciting intro, the role of the speaker and MC in delivering that exciting intro, and examples of intros from awful to awesome, showing us how to write awesome intros. Please help me welcome Kyle Hall.
We've all seen the Toastmaster stand up in front of us with a sheet of paper in their hand, and they're reading, and they start out, Bob was born a small boy close to his mother. And not much is known about him for the first couple of years of his life. He didn't talk much and didn't do much. But after a while, he started walking and speaking. And then he went to school. And then he went to high school. And then he went to college. And then he did this. And by the time the person says, here's Bob, the audience is, we are asleep. The introduction is the time to get the audience excited, to hear you, to listen to you. It's a time to get the audience sitting on the edge of their seat. Can't wait to hear what you're going to say. How do we do that? Well, we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss that today. We're going to talk about how to do that. Now, I want to make sure, I know that John has been posting things in the chat. There's a link to a handout. Hopefully you'll download the handout. Yeah, you might be able to see that a little bit on the screen here. Hopefully you'll download that handout. I'm going to be working from this handout. And I have a couple slides that match the handout. So hopefully you'll have that. And there's some breakout instructions that you'll need in a little bit. Where are my glasses? There they are. Poor introductions are a plague outside of Toastmasters. And they are, unfortunately, endemic inside of Toastmasters. I thought that professional speakers would be better at it. But I was asked to MC a conference a few years ago, and they had 9 professional speakers coming. One was going to do the keynote, the other were doing all TED Talk, 18-minute style TED Talks, but 9 professional speakers. These people either speak for a living or speak to make or to market themselves to make a living. Professional speakers. A month before the event, I started gathering the intros, And out of the 9 of them, only 1 of them wrote a half-decent intro. 8 of them were horrible. Fortunately, in every case, I was able to I kind of rewrote them and wrote back and said, hey, do you mind if I introduce you this way? I think it might work better. What do you think? And to a person, they went, yeah, okay, that's fine. So bad intros are endemic, but we can fix it. The first thing I want to talk about is, what is the purpose of the intro? Now, I already mentioned it's to get the audience sitting up and listening. There are a lot of clubs where the introduction is the title of the speech, the name, the title of the speech, or the other way around, you know, name, title, name. That's contest. That's contest intros. That only applies to contests. In a normal club meeting, you should have an introduction to get the audience excited, to give the Toastmaster something to do other than just say the title of your speech and go, here's Bob. So the purpose of the intro is to get the audience sitting up and listening. How do we do that? When I joined Toastmasters, 30 years ago, my first club mentor, Diane Hitzel, taught me that when you write an intro, you have to answer a single 4-part question. And that single 4-part question is, why is the speech being given to this audience by the speaker at this time? It's on your handout, so if you've downloaded it, it's in front of you. Why is this speech being given to this audience by the speaker at this time? Now, if you break that down, that's really asking 4 questions. The questions are, why is the speech important? Why is the speech urgent? Why do they need to hear it now as opposed to a year from now? What is the appropriateness of this speech for this audience? And what is the credibility of the speaker on this topic? That's a 4-part question. They're asking those 4 things. And we need to answer those 4 things. And if you answer those 4 things, if you answer 3 of the 4, you'll write an average intro. If you answer all 4, you might have a slightly above average intro. And then you can enhance the intro to make it really grab the audience, and that's when it becomes an awesome intro. Before we go any further, I want to talk about there's a 2-tier role here. 2-tier? It's a partnership. There's a partnership between the speaker and the Toastmaster. And by the way, during this presentation, I may say Toastmaster, I'm meaning the Toastmaster of the day, or MC. I use those 2 words interchangeably. They are essentially the same role. If you did a Toastmaster of the day role in some other organization, they would call you an MC. So I'm going to share my screen for a second. And it would help if I clicked on the right thing. Okay. You should all be seeing my screen in a second. So there's a partnership between the speaker and the MC. And the speaker needs to write their average intro. And the reason I include that, I originally just said, write the awesome intro. When I was learning to do this, I wrote a lot of average intros. It took me a long time to start beefing them up to be better and better intros. So right now, let's be happy if we get the average intro written. Then you can write the awesome one. You have to give it to the MC, the Toastmaster of the day, in advance of the meeting and ask them to practice it out loud. They should print it. They should practice it out loud before the meeting. And that way they can give you feedback. For instance, I gave my intro to Karen last week, asked her to practice it out loud. She sent me an email today with some suggested changes, which she made. So this is a very useful loop. I can tell you, when I'm the Toastmaster in the Toastmasters Club, I will tell the speakers, I want to practice your intro out loud. Our meeting is on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. I need your intro by Monday noon. I need your title and your intro by Monday noon, not 10 minutes before the meeting, handed to me on a sheet of paper, handwritten, before I go on. I need it typed into the agenda, our Free Toast Toast agenda, by noon on Monday, so I can print it and practice it out loud. And then I can get back to you and ask if there's any questions. And let's stop sharing. Come on, there we go. One of the funniest, most interesting examples of the MC and the Toastmaster conspiring, I'm sorry, the writer, the speaker, and the MC conspiring to create the intro. Some of you may know Omar Rivas, who made it to the World Championship stage a few years ago and was a district director in District 2. He was coming over to District 32, the district we're in, to give a talk, and I was going to be introducing him. So he wrote me this intro and sent it to me, and it was weird because I'd be reading the intro, and in the middle of it, there'd be brackets with an animal. And he sent me the intro and said, "Call me." And I called him. He said, "I want you to read this like I have animal Tourette's." So today Omar is going to talk to a giraffe. Talk to us about the problems facing the district badger. And this is what the intro was like. I had to just burst into the names of different animals. Now, it doesn't make sense when you hear the intro, but when you got into the speech, it made sense. It played well. But that was a clear example. I would never have known reading that how to give that intro if we hadn't talked. And in the intro I gave Karen, it's like, here's some section. Then there's in italics, pause for dramatic effect. and then go on. So I write some of the instructions right in the intro. And I've had instances where I have to coach people on giving an intro. Let's go through an example of an intro going from awful to awesome. So you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to use slides. I'm just going to use the handout. And by the way, this is a general intro, meaning it's an intro for somebody who's giving a talk to any organization. It's not a Toastmaster specific intro. There are Toastmaster specific things we will talk about in a few minutes. So this is a general purpose intro. Here's the awful version. Our speaker tonight is a father of 2 and grew up in Wisconsin. His speech is, "Are you ready for an earthquake? Please help me welcome Bill Doe." This is not a rhetorical question. Why is that a bad intro? What's that?
It's his name. I said his name, but
Yes,
that's
said-
not answer.
Yeah. Why is that a?
That's nothing to do with, are you ready for an earthquake? I've learned nothing about what he's going to speak of.
Right, you right. All right, his speech styles, "Are you ready for an earthquake?" But having a father of 2 in Wisconsin, what does that have to do with "Are you ready for an earthquake?" So there's no speaker credibility there. None of the 4 questions are answered. There's no sense of importance. There's no sense of urgency. There's none of that's there, right? So let's look at the average intro. This afternoon's guest speaker is Bill Doe. Bill is an emergency management expert. Today, he's going to tell us how to be ready for a major earthquake, giving us a speech entitled, "Are you ready for an earthquake? Please help me welcome Bill Doe." I say this is average. Why is it average?
Because it gives some information, but not enough.
It gives some information, but not enough. Anybody else want to comment?
There's no excitement.
No excitement to it. It addresses the credibility a little bit because it says he's an emergency management expert. So, okay, that gives him some credibility. Appropriateness, maybe. Okay, let's look at the awesome intro. Do you know what services or essentials, things we take for granted on a day-by-day basis, will not be available after a major earthquake? How long is your family prepared to survive without medical assistance, without power, without roads, without fresh drinking water, showers, or working toilet? How long will your food last if the shelves in the grocery store are empty? According to the U.S. Geological Survey, our area is several hundred years overdue for a monstrously destructive earthquake. This afternoon, Bill Doe, an emergency management consultant with over 20 years experience in emergency services, is going to ask us the question that could save our lives. Are you ready for an earthquake? Please help me welcome Bill Doe. Now, let me ask you, when you hear that intro, do you want to hear the speech? I'm seeing nods here. If you're online and you think that intro would get you sitting up and listening, just put yes in the chat. And John, tell me if you see anything other than yes showing up. Okay, I can see some yeses there. So now if you look at this intro, it answers the 4 questions. It answers, why is it important? It's important because we're overdue for an earthquake. It's urgent because we're overdue for an earthquake. It's also important because this could save your life or the life of your family. It talks about the credibility of the speaker. So the 4 questions are answered here, and they're answered in a provocative way. So that's why that's an awesome intro. Now let's talk about some add-ons, intro add-ons. This is from page 3 of your handout. If you're in a Toastmasters club, there's things we stick onto an intro. Like this speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. The manual or path is, it's visionary communicator, level 1, exercise number 3, and here's the objectives, blah, 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 blah. We like to stick that in there. Now, have you ever written a good intro? And I have done this. I've written a good intro, gave it to the person. I put all the Toastmaster stuff up front. And what they did is they read my intro. Here's Kyle's exciting intro to get the audience sitting up and listening. And they finished, please help me welcome. Oh, wait, I forgot. The timing is this. The path is this. The objectives of this. Boom. All the energy that they built up in the audience, gone. In a Toastmasters meeting, you always want to do the boring stuff of the intro first. The time, the path, the exercise, the objectives. That comes first. As a speaker, write it right in your intro, put it in there. If you're using Free Toast Toast and you select the path and the project in the agenda, it'll be put in the agenda, it'll be put in the intro for you. So you don't even have to do that. But make sure you know who's going to be giving this. Now, I need to make a note here. Some clubs like to have the evaluator stand up and say what the project is, what the path is, what the objectives are. I have no objection to that. If you're from a club where the evaluators do that, that's fine. I have seen a few clubs where they want the evaluator to do those things and then do the introduction for the speaker, which doesn't leave the Toastmaster anything to do, but other than say, here's speaker 2's evaluator to do my job. So if you're from a club that wants the evaluator to stand up and talk about the project and the path and the objectives, fine, do that. But then give it back to the Toastmaster so they can build up some excitement in the audience by delivering that introduction. Let's see. I want to walk through a Toastmaster intro with you. I'm going to try to do this quickly. It's on screen. I need to share my screen again. And where the heck did my mouse go? There it is. Now, I was given an intro by a fellow club member, and I liked the intro enough that I asked her if I could use it for my, I asked her if I could use it for this talk, and she said yes, as long as I didn't use her name. So I've changed her name. And the intro that she gave me, I was a Toastmaster. Her intro was, our next speaker has spent decades observing and experiencing the world of artistic performance, with the last 10 years spent researching the unique artistic personality and the many emotional and psychological challenges artists face. Let me introduce you to Susan Drow, who is working with motivational strategies, level 1, project 1, and will be giving for the second time her 5 to 7 minute icebreaker entitled, I Once Knew a Girl, a story about a girl on fire, a crash, a burn, and a phoenix rising from the ashes. Now, if you look at this, this is the awesome part, or I'm sorry, that was the content part. Here's the importance part. I'm sorry, the first part was credibility. That's what the word I was looking for. This is the importance part. Come on, here's the Toastmaster part, and that's pretty much all she had. So I went and I put the importance part, girl on fire, crash and burn, phoenix rising from the ashes, urgency. I thought about it and I ran this by the speaker. I said, as Toastmasters, we face the same artistic challenges that these artists face. And she kind of went, yeah, that's true. And we speak every week, so they could come up all the time. Appropriateness. And I rewrote the intro to work this way. Notice I broke it into part 1, Toastmasters add-on, part 2, the actual intro. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is working from the path of motivational strategies, level 1, project 1, the icebreaker. The objective of this is to give us 4 to 7 minute speech, which helps us get to know the speaker. Nothing wrong there. And here was the awesome part, the awesome intro part. As Toastmasters, we face the same emotional and psychological challenges that artists face every day. And we might face them next week when we have to speak. Fortunately for us, our next speaker has spent decades observing and experiencing the world of artistic performance. She has also spent the last 10 years researching the unique artistic challenges, personality, and the many emotional and psychological challenges artists face. Tonight, she will share with us the story of a girl on fire, a crash, a burn, and a phoenix rising from the ashes. Sharing, I Once Knew a Girl. Please help me welcome Susan Drow. In the chat, yes, this works better than the previous one, or no, it doesn't. I'm seeing some thumbs up here, but put it in the chat if you would.
This is great. Yes, 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 yes.
So that gives you an example. I took someone's intro, which I thought was, average, and I worked with them to make it awesome. Now, we've talked a little about awesome intros and the first add-on, which is the Toastmaster stuff. There's a couple of other add-ons I want to talk about. One is, what if you want to talk about a subject that is not generally talked about in the environment you're going to be speaking? Like if you're a Toastmaster, we generally tell people leave politics and religion at home. But what if you're practicing a speech on politics or on religion that you're going to be giving in the appropriate place? You're going to be giving a speech on religion in your church or your temple or your synagogue or your mosque. You're going to be giving a political talk to political people. You need a place to practice it. You should be able to practice it in your club. It's easy. You come in with a add-on in front. You give all the Toastmaster stuff, the boring Toastmaster stuff first. Then you go, our speaker is practicing a speech that he'll be giving to the Council of Washington Clergy next month. For the duration of the speech, please listen as if you were a clergy person serving a congregation of 50 to 100 people. Boom. In that few sentences, they've set the stage. They've told us who we are, what perspective we should have while we're listening and evaluating that speaker. And now, when he or she speaks, and they're talking about their religious clerical experience, we're not going to feel like we're being preached at. If somebody comes in and wants to give a sales presentation, they should be able to give it by adding in some material. They're saying, this is a sales presentation I'm going to be giving next month. I'd like you to critique it. Now, if they come in and it's I'm going to say network marketing talk, and they give it every time, every week, okay, they're abusing the privilege. Now here's one of the other questions that comes up a lot in intros. Some people are, well, should I include my honors? I have honors, I have accolades, I have things I've achieved. Should I include them in my intro? And my question comes back to you. Does that honor and accolade apply to this talk and this audience? For instance, I know somebody who made it to the World Championship stage, and now every single intro for any talk they give, no matter where they are, mentions that they made it to the World Championship stage. I think that's wrong. They are defining themselves by this one event they did. I made it to the World Championship stage. It only gets mentioned in my intro when I'm talking about competitive speaking. I've been the district director. That only gets mentioned when I'm talking about leadership. If you have an accolade, does it apply to the topic and does it apply to the audience? If I'm talking about leadership to non-Toastmasters audience, I'm not going to tell them I'm a district director because they don't know what that means. I could tell them I'm a DTM. They don't know what it means. I once had somebody tell me, oh, you have to get your DTM. You know, if you're going to be a professional speaker, you have to get your DTM. The people who buy professional speakers are going to care about that. No, they don't. They don't know what a DTM is. The last thing I want to talk about for this is a post intro, or what's sometimes called an outro. So you've spoken to the group, you've delivered your message, you want to walk off, but maybe you want the audience to know something. You want to sell an idea or sell, maybe literally sell an item, but you don't want to sell in your presentation. Selling in your presentation turns the audience off. So you don't sell in your presentation. You just deliver valuable content, and you leave. But you've given your Toastmaster, your MC, an outro. In the outro, they go, hey, Bob was here and wasn't that a great job? And I really liked how Bob talked about this. And if you want to, Bob's going to be in the back of the room. He's got some CDs and some books back there. He'll be back there signing and selling, and go have a chat with Bob. Simple. You let the MC do a sales job, very light sales job, and let the post outro do that work for you. A couple of other comments about intros before we break into our before we go into breakout rooms. You mentioned if you read the intro for Bill Doe, the awesome intro, it mentions in the intro, just casually mentions that according to the U.S. Geological Survey, we're several hundred years overdue for a major earthquake. By the way, all this is true. You live in Washington State, this is true. There's a lot of data there. There's a lot of data behind that. Bill Doe doesn't want to burden his presentation by putting up spreadsheets and surveys and geological studies. That stuff is dull. He doesn't want to do that. So he lets the MC, who doesn't have to represent a scientific-based person, make some bold statements that are true, but he doesn't have to support them. You know, we're several hundred years overdue for a major earthquake. No one's going to question the MC on that. And then he can just take that premise and run with it. He can let the intro do some of the work for him, do some of the heavy lifting for him. You can do the same thing with the outro. You can make a few statements in there, about the value of whatever it is you're selling in the back of the room, and let it do some of the heavy lifting for you. So we've talked about intros. We've talked about how to write an average intro, answering those 4 questions. And then once you've written an average intro, you can turn it into an awesome intro. We're going to go into breakout rooms. Now, I'm going to ask John the Zoom master, and I are kind of out of this. So I'm going to ask everybody in this room, I guess you just stay here and we'll mute the mic. Stay here and work on the breakout together. And John is going to take everybody who's online and throw you into a breakout room. Now, you should have received the breakout instructions. Hopefully you've downloaded them, maybe even printed them. I will tell you, I would like you to work together as a group. I want you to work through exercises 1 through 3, and only do 4 if you have time. But 1 through 3, you want to choose who's going to capture the results of your conversation. You want to choose somebody who's going to come back and present it to the group. And then you're going to run with this, and you're going to write an intro for John Gulliver. And everything, I have given you enough information here to rough out an average intro, and you guys can make up stuff. You can make up stuff about his business, his background, in order to create an awesome intro. So John, would you send people into the breakout rooms?
And how much
And
time
hit
are we
pause.
gonna give them?
You're gonna have, timer, is it 15 minutes?
You gave them 20 minutes.
Okay.
Green at 15, yellow 17.
You're gonna have 19 minutes. You're gonna have 19 minutes. So, he's going to send you into breakout rooms. Make sure one of you has the instructions. Make sure you have it on your screen before you go, because you won't be able to access it in the chat once you get thrown into a breakout room. Excellent. So my first question, and feel free to unmute and speak up. Was it a fun exercise?
Yes.
Thumbs up, nodding heads. Okay,
Hey,
okay. Now, John, was room 1 here?
Yes,
So room 1 was here, and then there was rooms
2 through 5.
2 through 5. So I'm going to start at 5 and work my way back. Room 5, who's representing you? Who's ever representing room 5, unmute.
Emcee was in that group.
ME?
I
Yep.
like that.
Oh, okay. I was in the same group with Lori Haynes.
Lori, yes.
So
Lori,
who-
would you like to be the speaker for us, or?
So what are we supposed to do?
Well, I
don't know.
asked you to choose somebody to record your average intro and your awesome intro, and then choose somebody to report on it. So who's reporting on your awesome intro?
So you're wanting us to read just the awesome intro? 'Cause I'm
Yes,
not
that's
sure
what I
you're
want you to
wanting.
do. Yes, read the awesome intro.
All right, Emmy, are you gonna do that?
I can if you'd like. I don't know if it has everything in it because I'm not very fast typist. So anyway, are you essentially in lockdown because you're too nervous to travel? Are you letting fear prevent you from enjoying a friend's wedding, a family reunion, or a business trip? Because post-pandemic travel seems confusing or bewildering. Get ready to buy those tickets. Our speaker, John G., whatever his name was, is here to unlock the mysteries of post-pandemic travel. Sit back and fasten your seatbelt as you prepare for your next adventure. Here's John G. with his speech, Know Before You Go.
Okay, okay. Well read, very dramatic. So I'm asking the group this is a group participation. What made this intro work?
She had lots of expression.
Lots of expression. Okay, anyone else?
Relatable concerns about travel.
Relatable concerns about travel, fear about traveling, confusion about traveling, wanting to go to family reunions and weddings and business trips and things like that.
A lot of questions that I know the answers to already.
They're not questions that you know the answers to?
Lots of questions that you already know the answers to that draw you in. It's like, yeah, I don't want to know that.
Yep, yep.
That was a connection to the audience, immediate connection to the audience.
Sure. So would that intro get you sitting up and listening? Now, any suggestions for making it stronger?
The intro needs credibility of the speaker, I think.
Yeah, we forgot that.
What's that?
Credibility.
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 Yeah, there was no mention of a 17 years in the travel business or the owner of a travel services. So credibility would have been helpful there. He had a speech title which you changed on him. That's okay. I actually don't have objection. Know Before You Go is a good title. Probably more engaging than Travel in the Age of Pandemic. Although Know Before You Go won't, if you stuck that on the top of a poster and somebody just saw it in passing, they're not going to know what you're talking about. They might be thinking go could mean a lot of different things in that context.
Yeah.
So You know, it depends on how you're going to market it. Okay, group 4. Group 4, who is representing group 4?
I'll read the group 4.
Elizabeth Harris.
Who is
Group 4. This is Jackie.
Jackie? Okay,
Yes.
so go ahead.
And this is really our, well, you want to be awesome, but we'll give what we have.
That's fine. If
There
you only
has-
got to the average, give me the average.
Okay. There has been a resurgence of travel following the COVID-19 pandemic. Persons want to get back to the great outdoors and to live their best life. We want to see our families and friends. We were isolated, but now we want to connect. Never have we experienced such challenging times. We have never felt so lonely. The future is uncertain, so we must travel now. We have lost family and friends, so why wait? Live your best life now. A travel expert and owner of Gulliver's Travels, he has worked in the travel industry for 17 years. Welcome our keynote speaker. He will take you on the trip of your life. Travel in the age of pandemics.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What made this work?
It followed the 4 questions.
Okay, right, so it did deal with the 4 questions, or I think it dealt with most of the 4 questions. It dealt with the credibility. I think it certainly dealt with importance.
On the urgency.
What's that?
I think it dealt with the, is it urgent now?
Karen thought it dealt with the urgency. I think I'd have to hear it again. And it's certainly appropriate to this audience. You definitely made it appropriate to the audience. So from that sense, I think it really worked. Is there any improvements that anyone would suggest?
I don't know, I
It
feel like
was the
there were too many
voice.
questions.
The voice?
The voice could have done with more modulation and more like speed was an issue.
Okay, so you're a little better or more variety, vocal variety in the reading of the intro?
Yeah, or the speed and the cadence could have been more
Sure.
even keel.
I will tell you, as a Toastmaster, as an MC for a meeting, doing the intro is one of the few instances where you can really get some theatricality going if you want to. One of the things I was going to say is the first section of the intro was all about us wanting to move out of isolation into connecting and traveling again. And it was a little long.
Yeah.
I was starting to get a little bored, and then you finally moved on. So that section, I would tighten that up to a few sentences. And that might take a little while, but I would tighten that up to a few sentences. Okay, group number 3. Who is representing you? And would you read us your, oh, and by the way, group 4, if that was your average intro, with a little bit of crafting, you would have a really awesome intro.
Yes, that's
So-
our average.
What's that?
Yes, it was our average intro. We didn't get to our awesome.
Well, as I said, if that was your average intro with a little more crafting, I would love to see what you would have come up with for an awesome intro. Group 3,
Thank you.
who's representing you?
Jacqueline, Yvonne, Raysuk, Sonia, or Vivian?
Sonia will represent us.
Sonia, you've been drafted. You have to unmute, Sonia. There you go.
Thank you. We all love to travel. Wonderful places.
Oh.
Sonia, you froze
Wonderful
up.
people eating foods we've never eaten before, smelling smells we've never smelled. My what?
You froze up. Can you
What's
start
that?
again? You froze up. Can you start again, please?
Yeah, okay. We all love to travel. Wonderful places, eating foods we've never eaten before, smelling smells we've never smelled, hearing accents we've never heard, being lost in a marketplace, tapping someone on the shoulder saying, "What is that?" The pandemic has changed us. Travel may not be the same. There are all kinds of things that we may or may not know about, and we could be exhausted looking online. I know most people go online to find information about travel, but what if you could get all that information from just one amazing person? Lemuel Gulliver has traveled across the world. He's been in lands with little people, lands and giants. He knows more about traveling than anyone I can think of. Maybe there are places you could go. Maybe there are places you shouldn't go. But tonight, please welcome Gulliver as he shares with us all of his travels post-pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, Gulliver.
Thank you, Sonia. I was wondering if anyone was going to make a Gulliver Travels reference. And, I deliberately chose that name just to see if anybody does that. Okay, so what worked for this intro?
Humor.
Humor, okay. What else worked?
The senses, they included the senses.
The
The
senses.
sights, the smells,
Yeah,
the touch.
yeah. The whole word picture you were creating at the beginning about the desire for travel. Any suggestions for making this better? Sonia, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm muted. Oh, you're asking me any suggestions for making it better?
I'm asking everybody, but I saw your lips
Oh.
moving, but I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, my assumption. The only thing that comes to my mind, the beginning, you were trying to set up a word picture, and you're doing a good job doing that. The marketplace where you're seeing things you've never seen before, the food, the smells. What I would do is make it a little more concrete. Pick a market, a market in Marrakesh, and describe the aromas of the fennel and the cumin and the roasting spices and and wafting from the chimneys and the street sellers hawking their food and the pottery. You pick one place and really describe it and get into the senses and let that one place represent all the other places we'd like to go. That's I think the only suggestion I can make that might have made that more powerful.
Why choose a travel agent? Why not go online?
Yep.
Well,
Good
so
point.
if you want to answer that, that would be one of the questions that maybe Mr. Gulliver should be answering. He'll tell us tonight about traveling in the age of pandemic and why one might want to choose a travel agent as opposed to just buying your plane flight online. Because that was room 3. Room 2.
Beverly, Christopher, or Letitia?
Okay, Beverly, Christopher, or Letitia, who's going to represent you?
Christopher.
I have it.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Rock and roll. Do you need a vacation? Sure. The statistics show travel is up, and so is travel problems. Do you know how to book a vacation? Our next speaker will share practical advice to instill confidence as you book your next trip with a travel agent. With 17 years of experience in the travel industry, please welcome the owner of Gallagher's Travel, John Gulliver, with his speech, Travel in the Age of Pandemic.
Okay, thank you. What worked for this?
You.
The pointing, you need a vacation.
You need a vacation.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, great start. Anything else that worked well here. He got the credibility. He certainly made it appropriate to the audience. I'm not sure if you built in the urgency.
Well, you need a vacation.
Well, that's true. You need a vacation. You need it now.
Don't think he addressed the facing flight cancellation, overbooking scenarios, and how a travel agent can work, smoothing that out so that you just need to sit in that seat and fasten your seatbelt and get ready for the ride of your life or holiday of your life.
Beverly said very closely to what I was thinking. The only thing I would have added, Chris, is, do you know how to book a vacation? I would have added, do you know how to book a bulletproof vacation? And then you could have added a half a sentence or a sentence about that, that can handle pandemics coming up and airline closures and flights delayed and, all the other stuff. So, and that's one reason to have a travel agent. So you have somebody on the ground who can deal with those issues. Now we're going to move on to group 1 because we're almost out of time. And I want to hear, they were snickering and laughing. And I want to hear what they were laughing about. So who's reporting? Are you reporting, Gayleen?
I am.
So Gayleen is going to come up and.
That's why they were snickering and laughing.
I'm sorry, Gayleen.
You may want to toss the camera. May want to.
Oh,
That's good.
no, she's fine.
Good.
She's good.
Far away is good.
Yeah.
That's great. Are you thinking of traveling to Lulka? A favorite destination of Gulliver's travels. John Gulliver, a travel agent for 17 years, has had experience living through Ebola in Cameroon. And he brought home a wealth of knowledge on safety during travel in crisis times. He asked the question, to mask or not to mask? That is the question. And his book, Traveling During a Pandemic, has the answer to that very question. John Gulliver, Traveling in a Pandemic.
Thank you, Gayleen, and delivered with gusto, if I may say. What made that work?
The gusto.
The gusto.
I was excited.
Yeah. Anything else?
His credibility and the excitement that he traveled through Ebola.
Yes, yes.
That was mine, thank you.
Yeah, I did say you could make stuff up, and they decided let's give him real credibility for dealing with a pandemic. He was a travel agency in Cameroon during the Ebola crisis. So it's like, okay, that's wow.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. They made it up. They put it in there. It worked. Anything that could make this stronger?
Well, I was just going to say, I think choosing the mask topic was really good because it's definitely something that people have a lot of passion about. So you know that you're going to hook them better with that.
Yep. And I like the Lilliputian lesson reference to Gulliver's Travels. Okay.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say I also like that her reference of to mask or not to mask because, it goes on the side of is this a speech that we're trying to, instill that or not? So it gives us an option, like we want to hear both sides of the story.
Sure.
Thank you.
For me, the one thing that I think would have made it better is there was some incongruity because when you talked about going through Cameroon and with Ebola, there were smiles like this was a happy thing. It was fun. There was that threw me a little bit. It's like maybe bringing down the energy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point because when you're the introducer, there may be an emotion that the speaker wants you to invoke during the intro, and you have to evoke it, not be giggling and laughing. Thank you, Chris. Any other last comments on the workshop? Okay, John, have you put the feedback link in the chat?
I will do that now.
I'm going to hand control to Karen in a moment, but John is putting a link in the chat. I want your feedback on this workshop so that I can make it better. Now I'm going to get some evaluative feedback, but I want feedback from everybody. So there's going to be a link in the chat. Please click on it. If you're going to leave the meeting, click on the link before you leave the meeting so the the evaluation survey will be in your browser, and then you can leave, and then when you leave the meeting, it's still there and you can fill it out. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. We've talked about intros. We talked about what the purpose of the intro. The purpose of the intro is not to talk about you. The purpose of the intro is to get the audience excited about what you're going to talk about. And we've talked about how to write an average intro by answering the 4 questions. And then we can massage it and turn that into an awesome intro that really gets people sitting up and listening with anticipation when we stand up to speak. And when they listen with anticipation, they're more likely to hear what we have to say, receive the message we want to deliver, and make the changes we're asking to make. And that's what speaking is all about. So I offer awesome intros to you. Take this home, share it with your club, try it out, work on it. And you've been a great audience. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kyle. Wow, that was great.
Kyle told us about our speeches starting before we even ever stand up. They also continue after we've left the lectern, as Kyle just left. If we give the MC a post intro and outro. Here's Kyle's real life outro. If you received value from tonight's workshop, please click on the feedback link in the chat and fill out Kyle's short evaluation survey. If you are interested in Kyle Hall's other presentations, a few of his most popular talks include Better Evaluating, How to Write a Good Speech Fast with Mind Mapping, Club Marketing 101, a strategic overlook, Making Pathways Work for You, a workshop on using pathways to achieve your goals, and Decoding Humor, how to find and evaluate sources of humor for speeches. Contact Kyle for more information, and his information is on